we still have
Don't
do anything Serviceville yet. We still have about 5 seconds before the service officially begins, and I wouldn't want anyone to start prayer.
go.
Okay. Hi, welcome to the Saturday service. I'm Rabbi Brian. This is service number 209 on April 6, 2024. I'm glad that you're here. I am joined by a whole group of friends. Hello, friends.
Hello.
There they are. And look, they all know to wave. Thank you. Thank you for being here.
You've been trained.
Operant conditioning.
I have a quick cartoon I wanted to show. I can't do that, can I? Ah! There it is. I just thought this was so funny. This one might be my sense of humor and you might not enjoy it, but let's see. My goal was to keep track of whether or not I'm hitting my goals. This one might be my sense of humor and you might not enjoy it, but let's see. How's that going? Was to keep track of whether or not I'm hitting my goals. Blew it.
Got an echo.
I do hear that echo. Hold on one second, folks. Alex, my dear friend who helps with tech, do you have any sense where that echo is coming from me, or might it be coming from elsewhere?
I think that might have been Maria.
Oh, okay. Well, and good morning to Yolanda. And let me say good morning to anyone who's on Facebook or anyone who's watching on YouTube. Thank you for joining. If you would like to join us live, please do on Saturday mornings, Saturday Pacific time morning. It might be different time where you are. Join the Zoom group to participate. I want us to start this morning. Let me put everyone up on the screen. There's everybody. Hi, everybody.
Hi there.
Oh, and good morning to Shirley. Thank you for joining. And Chad and Lisa, who are in the Twitch room, I'm glad that you're here. We're going to start today with a gratitude practice. And I'm very excited about this new idea for a gratitude practice. So instead of saying, hey, go ahead, think of 10 things to be grateful for, I want you to start this way. There are going to be instructions, and there's going to be a category for you to have some gratitude within this category. And I'm going to begin with just the letter A. Can you think of something that begins with the letter A for which you are grateful?
Apple.
Air.
Air. Air is a great one. That's fantastic.
Apples.
Let's take one or two more thoughts.
Apples.
Apples. One more.
Appreciation.
Appreciation. Wonderful. Next category of things for which to have gratitude. What is something you have gratitude for which is about the size of a shoebox? Granted, we have different size shoes maybe, and boots, but what is something you are grateful for that's about the size of a shoebox?
Bread.
Bread, because bread's about the size of a bread box. That's very good. What else?
My dog.
Shoes.
Shoes? Go ahead, Betsy.
A violin.
A violin. It's about the size of a shoebox.
Big shoebox.
Big or small violin.
Well, approximately. I mean.
What else are you grateful for? That's one more thing that you're grateful for that's about the size of a shoebox.
My dog.
Your dog.
Yeah, I would see a dog. Yeah, little dog.
And I'm going to bounce this over to Maria for the next prompt. Maria, hopefully this is going to work.
Yes. Something that you are grateful for in nature.
What's something you're grateful for in nature?
Morning bird song.
Trees.
Good answer.
Birds.
Rainbow.
Flowers.
Sun.
Yeah.
Rain.
And
Daffodils.
Jeff, give us our next prompt. I prepared this with people. I'm not just calling on people randomly.
Oh,
You
sorry.
did? Oh gosh.
Do you have one, Jeff?
What is something you're grateful for in your family?
Something you're grateful for in your family.
Love.
Wonderful.
Love.
Love is a
Hugs.
great one.
Hugs.
My dog.
Humor.
My relationship with my sister.
Your sister. And Alex, do you have a... now I can't remember who was on my committee to do this. Joe, you were on that group.
Joe was there.
What are you grateful for that begins with the letter O?
Something you're grateful for that begins with the letter O.
Opulence.
Opportunity.
Opportunity. Wonderful.
Oxygen.
Yeah.
Well, I think there. I can't think of a. Is there someone else who prepared a question who has a category they want to ask? I'm going to take that as a no. I'm grateful to have all of you. I'm also feeling I'm going to do a humble brag / gratitude for coming up with yet another way for us to express gratitude. It's a simple thing to do to express gratitude, and it changes the way we see things. The more gratitude you have, the happier you are. It's pretty simple. I'm going to 2 weeks ago, we talked about patience, and I suggested at the end of customer service phone calls, you ask, they always say, is there anything else I can help you with? And I suggested that perhaps you ask them, is there a tip you have about staying patient that you might share with me? And I did this yesterday. Our friend James is in Pelican Bay State Penitentiary, and he asked me to order him some supplies, and I did, and they ran out of the shoes that he had wanted, so I had to get in touch with them, and I don't know if you can, there it says on there. So we did it. Do I have your permission to charge $5 extra to your card? I said, yes, please. She said, okay, that went through and should arrive at the facility in 5 to 7 days. Is there anything else I may assist you with? I say, yes, tell me how you stay patient. I'm trying to learn. And within a minute, she responded, some days are harder than others.
Oh.
I tell people, sure, you could come help cut the grass.
Hold on 1 second, Bob. Some days are harder than others. And I thought, well, that's not the greatest answer. And then I thought about it a little more, and I thought, well, that is a really wonderful answer. How do you stay patient? Well, knowing that some days are harder than others can help you to stay patient.
Mm-hmm.
Just knowing that some days are harder than others is going to make the hard day a little bit easier. Jeff told a joke the other day. What's the difference? Jeff, I'm going to do the setup, you do the punchline. What's the difference between a good day and a bad day?
Anybody?
You, Jeff, you.
2 days.
What's the difference between a good day and a bad day?
2 days.
2 days.
Your attitude.
Right? What's the difference? It's usually about 2 days.
Oh.
How do you stay patient? You stay patient by knowing that there are some days that are just going to be harder than others. Someone else have a tip? How do you stay patient?
One breath.
What's something that you're doing that helps you to stay patient?
I try to remember what's important.
Trying to remember what's important. Great answer.
Be calm.
Be calm. Knowing that everyone is trying the best that they can helps me to stay patient. Knowing that nobody's intentionally trying to cause pain, and if they are deluded. But most people are not trying to cause pain. That keeps me patient. My children aren't trying to upset me when they put the dishes in the wrong place. I'm still missing the bottom to I have a little chopping tool. I'm missing the bottom to it. How do I stay patient? I know it will show up, just not on my timetable. All right, that's patience. Anything else we want to say about patience? I had 3 things on my list today. Patience was one. Go ahead.
I use prayer.
Prayer can help you stay patient. Patience is a prayer? Sure. Can you explain a little bit more, Missy, about how you do that? Because I'm not sure I know when you say I use prayer. I don't know that I know exactly what it is you mean.
Well, a good example is the Serenity Prayer, but as just an example, but just in my prayer life, I try to use that time to adjust my attitude, and that helps with patience and any other number of things.
Missy, I apologize. I was farting with the TV controls here, and I missed most of what you said, but I'm sure it was really good. And
of course,
instead of having you repeat it, instead of me repeating it, which I can't because I wasn't paying none attention, let me see if somebody else who was paying attention can reinforce the learning so we don't have the same person saying it. What was that? What idea did Missy give that might have worked for you? Go ahead, Lenny.
She uses that time to adjust her thoughts, and that's when the patients come. That prayer time is used to have patience in her heart.
I love it. Missy, does that capture what you said well enough?
It does.
Well, good. Wonderful. Anyone else on the topic of patience? Is there a moment that you lost your patience this week or was there a moment that you're especially proud of where you had patience?
Yeah, I did.
You're going to get an opportunity in the next week to practice patience. Congratulations. Everyone gets homework. You and you and you and you and you and you and you. Everyone's going to get homework to practice patience this week. Back to this person's quote from Robin. Robin at some days are harder than others. Some days are harder than others. That's true. That reminded me of what we spoke about last week and serenity. Is that one of the best ways to get serenity is to stop seeking serenity. Knowing that you're not always going to be serene can lead you to have serenity. It's I think just like magic. Knowing you're not always going to be serene can help you be serene. Anyone have anything else that they learned in the last week, or some humble or non-humble brag they want to do about the topic of serenity before we move on?
It's interesting that these days, because of the moving and all that, I believe that the emotional roles have turned around between Maggie and I. Now she's so jumpy and all that, and we have to do this, we have to do that, we have to do the other thing. And me being here, I'm the one who's doing it. So she was turning very, very, very I don't know, very excited about all this stuff. And I said, wait, take it slow. Yeah. Don't worry too much. You don't want to get a heart attack. And she stops and she says, okay.
Oh, that's wonderful, because I find often if I say to someone, just calm down.
The way you say it, Rabbi.
Did you not like the way I said it? Just calm down.
No, I didn't like that.
It doesn't work,
I used
does
to do
it?
that before. No,
it never
I used
works.
to do that.
In the history of ever, never does it work to scream at someone to calm down. Except it might work, so you might want to try it again.
No, thank you.
Calm down.
Yeah.
No.
It might just be that we haven't tried it enough.
I think you weren't loud enough.
Right. Thank you, Jordan. I think you're just not shouting at the other person loud enough. Calm down.
Right.
Okay, so now we all have homework for next week is find somebody who's a little bent out of shape and scream at them.
No gracias.
Likewise, slapping someone in the face like they used to do in 1950s movies when somebody was hysterical, that doesn't usually work very well either.
No.
It used to be science approved. If you slap somebody who's hysterical, the person will stop. Yeah, right.
Only if they know that. So let me try something. We're gonna do a oh wait, I didn't get to show this to everybody. I have this picture that I came across on my Facebook feed. Do you guys see that picture?
It's Jesus.
So some of you are going to see a picture of a vendor with some kind of greens and two, what appear to be two women standing there.
Oh,
but
it's Mick Foley.
If you look at it, if I move it around slowly like that,
yeah,
do you see a Jim Morrison kind of face there?
Yeah.
Squint a little bit.
Yeah.
Make it a little bit bigger. Isn't that an amazing photo?
Yes.
Yeah.
You hear this?
Yep.
Jesus eating a salad.
That is exactly what we were going for. We were going for Jesus eating a salad here.
Oh, that's who that man is.
I want to ask you to help me out with something. There are 37 similarities between Santa and a standard conceptualization of God.
Right.
There are 37 similarities between Santa and the common... What did I say that stood for? Standard.
Conceptualization.
Concept of God.
Standard conceptualization of God. So we're not talking who God really is. We're just talking about this image we have of God, right? Mm-hmm. Your notion of God might not be the one that I'm writing here. That's why it's a standard conceptualization of God. Help me out. 37 similarities between Santa and a standard conceptualization of God. And I need your help. I lost the list. I used to have the list of the 37 similarities, and I've lost them. So
white male.
Yeah. So we got two of them right off the top. We got white male.
All seeing.
And we have is in a straight heteronormative relationship.
He's making a list and checking it twice to see who's naughty or nice.
Yeah. So there's some kind of there's some kind of list being made.
Yeah.
Spreading joy.
They both have some joy. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. And
white beard.
They both have. They're both bearded.
Oh yeah, they are bearded.
All seeing.
Yeah, they both have omniscience. They can see everything.
You're little, and you sit on his lap.
Yeah,
and ask
they are
presents.
bigger than life.
I've never thought about sitting on God's lap.
Well, now that you're trying it, Ray, is that an enjoyable feeling?
Well, the other thing is we say white male, but perhaps they're also the same, or the conception is the same, depending on who's thinking about them. Yes, who's looking at them.
Thank you, Ray. So there's there's many commonalities, but from
And the
But
portion-
from house
person's
to
point
house,
of
there
view.
might be a difference. That is, in our house, Santa wraps things in wrapping paper, and in your house, Santa does not wrap things in wrapping paper. There are many commonalities, and there are some individual differences based on location. Wonderful. Give me some other.
Yeah,
You
bringing
might-
nice stuff for the worthy and punishing the coal for the unworthy.
Yeah, so there are
Punish-
gifts,
Right.
and there's
Right.
this definite judgment of good and bad.
That's why the list.
And
The
that,
list
if you're doing well, you must be good.
Yeah.
Right.
Go ahead, Paula. You were saying something.
Oh, we request things of both of them.
Yeah. They're both cosmic ATM machines where you can make a request.
Say you write letters to Santa and you pray to God.
Yeah. So we make requests of them.
Yeah.
One way.
It's a very one-way relationship. It's
I'd give them cookies.
Yes, yeah.
I might need a little help on the cookies.
Wafers.
Oh, Catholics and yeah, we got communion. We got some kind of cookie exchange going on.
No, leave it up to Santa Claus.
Cookie and
Oh,
eggnog.
and there's also the aspect of sacrifice. You sacrifice your cookies to Santa Claus, and you sacrifice or tithe or
I never thought of it as sacrificing my cookies.
You're not eating them.
You're totally
no,
right, but I didn't know that.
Yeah. I thought it was because I was being nice to Santa.
Yeah, but you're giving up one of your own cookies. I didn't.
Yeah,
Okay,
but, I mean, it's
let's
just
move-
like tithing, right? You're basically sacrificing something. You're giving something away
to make the big guy happy. Yeah.
make the big guy happy. Yeah.
Yeah.
The other
I have
thing is,
there are a few other. Give me some divergent thoughts. They both here. I got one. They both live above us.
Right.
Good.
Somewhere we don't know.
Yeah. What else do they?
they're
have?
both spiritual
not
because
supposed to
no
see them.
one's seen either
Yeah.
one of them.
Yeah. They both have. Thank you. They both have some very strange notion of faith is required. You can't see them exactly as they are.
But they're both omnipresent too.
Oh, so
Santa
they're
delivers
both
all those.
omniscient and
He knows-
omnipresent. They both have the ability to
He
Be
knows
everywhere.
when you're
multiple
sleeping.
places at the same time. They transcend time and space. Oh, neither of them, they don't die.
Right. Don't age either.
They both have a special relationship with Mrs. Claus. I made that one up. Sorry, that
I
was,
like that.
Claus and Mary.
They both have. Here's one. Now I have an advantage. I've done this list before. One of my favorites is they both have small helpers.
Right. The
I
angels and
thought you were going to say something else.
Angels and elves.
Yeah, go ahead, Lynn. Was that you?
No, I don't want to say what I was thinking.
oh,
Oh, I want to hear it.
If I pause the recording,
same here.
what else? What else do they have in common? Give me.
Infinite imagination.
They're filled with imagination. I love it. I'm gonna
They're
add
both
in
used to
another one.
manipulate people.
They're both pediatric. They're for children. They're not things that adults are supposed to really believe.
Wait a minute.
I put a star next to that one because that one's about to get crossed off.
Conception of God.
Go ahead, Meg.
Well, adults are supposed to believe in God.
Right.
There is a. Let me frame it a little differently. There is a commonly held notion that if you have a belief in either of them, there is something cognitively delayed about you.
But that's totally unfair, and I think you've set this up in a very bad way. You're talking about Santa Claus as a child, You're not talking about God as a child. If you want to make comments about children's views of God, that's one thing. But to say of an adult that they don't have a view of God is to write off Spinoza, is to write off Eckhart, is to write off all the adults in the world who have given serious thought to this question. And you're setting it up this way is really not only anti-religion, it's
Carol, take it easy. I might be somebody calm down that I was joking about earlier. There's good intentions coming here, and I did not mean to trample upon great philosophers.
One very important thing is that he did not say the idea of God. He said it's a common conception of God, which is the.
I still think that Carol's making a good point.
Yes.
And I want to be respectful of that. So, Carol, let me say what I heard of your point to make sure that I'm tracking what you said well enough. Is that I'm comparing a childish notion of God to an idea of Santa Claus, not talking about a full adult's understanding of the divine. Am I close? Help me, Carol, to clean up if I'm not saying what you said well enough.
I don't even think you're right about children. I think children are incredibly wise, and that young children, before they are taught by institutionalized adults, find God in and through everything they experience up until about the age of 7.
Yes, agreed. What I'm putting up here is I got that echo again happening, Alex.
I got it.
Thank you. This is a straw man. There's an idea in philosophy and in arguments that a straw man fallacy is that you put up this idea just to crash it down, and that's what this.
It's in politics as well.
In politics as well, the straw man argument is I put all this up just to knock it down, and this is what Carol, I don't think we're far afield from each other. This is not God. These are common assumptions made about God, and they don't have to do with who God truly is or what an idea of God truly is. And I think, and let me do it as what I put up here is not God. It's
an
one
illusion.
of the problems we have when we start talking about God is that we start talking about God in this childish way, and that we use these metaphors for God of Santa Claus, which is not who God is. Another image of God that comes throughout the North America is we think about God as being a vice principal. So this is a notion of God where God is benevolent and wants to help everybody. This is a notion of God where God's keeping score and trying to let me call your mom about that later. That this is another idea of God that's very popular, but that doesn't mean that it's right. Another idea of God is that of Zeus, of this authoritarian ruler who's going to smote you as soon as you do something wrong. This is also not God. There was a... let me take some comments. Go ahead, Ron.
I remember this in the early 70s. Jethro Tull came out with an album. I'm pretty sure it was Thick as a Brick. And in the liner notes, it said, "In the beginning, man created God. In his image, he created him."
that humanity created God in the image of humanity.
Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, Ron. Go ahead, John.
You're muted.
There we go. When you wrote vice principal, did you very deliberately spell principal that way? Because vice principal LE is very different from vice principal AL.
We have to be tolerant of the rabbi's spelling.
The words are really significant here because if it's vice principal, that has a completely different connotation. I know spelling sometimes gets in the way, but in this case, those two words bring such different pictures.
Beloved friends, I at this moment am feeling a shit ton of shame.
Jeez. Oh no.
And it's fine. I'm human. That's just how it is.
It's okay, Brian.
Yeah.
Just calm down.
You are loved.
There is I appreciate that. It's hard sometimes, and I'm expressing that just so that y'all know who's on the other side of the screen here, and I'm not going to bottle my stuff all the way down and pretend like it's not all good. I'm feeling a little bit of raw around the edges, so I'll bring that out. John, do you have more on? Do you have more about this you would like to say?
It was no kind of criticism. It was just a question. Did you have a double meaning intended when you put the word down? That's all.
That's a fun thing about shame, is it can come up whether it was intended to, whether it was fed or not. It's still willing to show up. Go ahead, Jordan. And folks, I'm 54 years old. I'm a big boy, and you all don't have to take you don't feel like you need to rush in to save me. I'm okay. My feelings will go as they go. Go ahead, Jordan.
This is not to spare your feelings or anything, Brian. This is something I was going to say before, but I think you modeled dealing with somebody coming at you with Carol was a little offended, and she came at you with some heat, and I thought you dealt with that very gracefully.
Thank you.
And I would like to learn how to do that, because I got a little bit upset, a little bit not upset, but what's the word?
Defensive.
You agitated a little bit. It just made me feel on edge. So Carol, I'm not calling you out, Carol, at all. I mean, I understand you were offended, and that's fine. But Brian, I would like to learn to respond to people coming at you like you did.
I can tell you a little bit of what I do in slow motion is I try best I can, and I have trained myself to thank whoever it is with whatever criticism they have, and to make that my first move. Jordan, you and I play chess together. It's like what there are only so many openings. Somebody comes at me hard, I'm gonna try to agree with them, and as I did with Carol, try to repeat back what I heard them say, because that's gonna, as you said, to come at it with force doesn't work. So trying to do that. Go ahead, Al.
Yeah, I just wanted to add in, I could tell you were feeling defensive because you said, well, we all think of God, or we think of God this way. And I don't think you meant that. I think you meant like there's a common conception of God, that, we talk about God this way. And I know I would caution, don't speak for Carol. I've never heard Carol speak about God that way.
That's fair.
Be careful of we.
Yeah.
It's a trap I fall into very often as well.
Amen.
I got a little bit sloppy in my language. I appreciate you helping me to clean that out.
Rabbi, can I say something?
Go, Missy.
Thanks. So the whole exchange that's happening here is really curious to me on many, many levels. But primarily the one being this thing about how we all look at things so differently. And I think I can use the we word there. And not just around the subject of God, although God is a big one. And it's not a wonder that it's something that is often avoided here because people have so much baggage and or education and or whatever it is that we bring around this subject that is triggering and not always triggering in a bad way. I mean, you know, what I hear coming from Carol is her deep faith and belief and
Love of God.
I hear that coming from you too, Rabbi, and I hear it coming from Al, and I hear it coming from Jordan, and I hear it coming from everybody who's expressing.
I think of this topic often, in the topic of God, some as a lightning rod on top of a building, that it attracts the energy, and that people get pretty heated up around this topic. I want to switch, and I'm going to do a little. I want to do two little teachings about the idea of God, and we'll see how this goes. There are different stages. Y'all know when you're born, your kneecaps aren't really formed the way that they're formed when you're older. That's how little kids can scooch on the ground on their knees and it doesn't cause them pain. Do you remember being 9, 10 years old and playing with your kneecap, kind of bumping it back and forth, and it would be gelatin like, and you don't do that anymore? It's not because it's not fun. It's just your kneecap doesn't do the same thing. Things evolve, things change. And I want to speak a little bit about some of the science behind faith stages and faith beliefs. And this is the work of Fowler. James Fowler came up with this, and I'm adapting what Fowler wrote. Carol talked about before 7 years old. And kids before 7 years old live in a world that's filled with magic. Their notions of God, their notions of... There's, monsters under the bed are real. I mean, they're not real to you and I who are adults, but to little ones who live in this world of magic, that's God is magic, the world is magic. It's a very different world. We move from magic to this idea of dependence. We're told this is how things are. This is the holy book. This is what you should believe. And we fashion our faith beliefs, our faith stages, our how we live. Somebody told us it's true, so it's true. I remember when Emmett was about 10 years old. Well, actually, I know he was 9 years old. And we brought him to a track meet. And he was fast enough to run with the 10-year-olds. And the coach said it was okay, but the group was officially 10-year-olds and up to run. And Emmett was 9, and he would not join because I'm only 9 years old. I'm not 10. And that's this stage, that the rules are very fixed, and you don't do anything except for how the rules are. Even if dad and the coach are telling you it's fine, you can't do it because it's a 10-year-old track thing. Independence often... I did not spell independence correct. There is no hidden meaning in that. It's just my brain did not work quite so well. Independence. There's independence. This is often, you think about an 18-year-old who just got to college, somebody who believes in science pretty fervently. Independence is 180 degrees off of dependence. It's saying it's only true if science can prove that it's true. I'm not taking your word for it. There's a lot of people who come and find religion outside the box are fiercely independent religious thinkers. often our God beliefs form then into this paradoxicality, this idea of both and, that something can be true and not true at the same time. This is a much that God exists and God doesn't exist, that we can have both and. Both and thinking. Also, hey, this is something important to know. Our theology does not evolve usually without crisis. That you have a crisis in your life when the theology that you used to have no longer works. And it's not pretty to go from dependence to independence. It's just not pretty, and it's painful. And nobody asks to have their theology improved. It just happens. Paradoxicality leads to, this is in Fuller's words, this idea of unity, of where we see glimmers of connection to everything in the world. That unity is this sense of peace, belonging, and oneness. And here's my one contribution to Fowler, is I add in this little extra arrow that says unity starts to feel again like magic. And then we start to see that the world is filled with magic and we are a part of that world. Okay.
Okay.
I'm going to give one more quick teaching and then I'm going to be quiet for a moment. Not only do we evolve in our understanding of God, but we can see that God, if you just look through the Bible, that God has evolved in the text as well. That humanity, if you think about the Bible as being written over generations, you can see the evolution of humanity's understanding of God. That God, at the beginning of the Bible, is portrayed as a jealous, totalitarian ruler who smotes people who God doesn't like. This is often referred to as the Old Testament God. That's a really obnoxious phrase. It is the notion of God shown at the beginning books of the Hebrew Bible, I would say, a little better. Any which way. God changes from a jealous totalitarian ruler at the very beginning parts of the Bible. Then with Abraham, constitutional monarch. I got to do a quick timeout. Hi, it's me. Quick timeout. Is this of any interest at all?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
I'm going to keep going then. I felt like I was in an airlock and teaching to myself for a moment because of the spotlight. So
Go ahead.
I'm going to keep going. So God goes from being jealous totalitarian ruler to being a constitutional monarch. The idea there is, if you do this, I'll do that. And that's this whole idea with Abraham is, if you do this for me, I'll do that for you. And I'm not going to just be a totalitarian. I'm going to be a constitutional monarch ruling the world. And then with Moses says to God, what is your name? And God says, I am that I am. That God becomes, I am the God who freed. I am the God of your ancestors. I am the God who freed you from Egypt. And God becomes known as God, as the nameless deity of history. I'm the God who will lead you. I'm the God who led your forebears. And at this point, God stops, at least in the biblical story, God stops having a body. We stop having a corporal understanding of God. Earlier in the Bible, with Noah and Noah's Ark, God smells the offerings. God walks in the Garden of Eden. God closes the door of the ark. God has a body. But by the time we get to Moses, here we are, which would be approximately 1300 BCE. God becomes this nameless deity of history. This one, So most of what I'm telling you right now is the work of Eric Fromm, who wrote a wonderful book called "And Ye Shall Be Gods," and he talks. That's where I got most of this. I'm constituting it down. God also becomes, at this point we have a split where God will become, in the Jesus idea, that God becomes love. And then there's a rabbinic notion that God becomes the reluctant requirer of rules and regulations, that God gives us a lot of rules of things that we're supposed to do. And then Fromm's, and this is the one I like very much, is that God becomes a placeholder for our highest ideals. That God is no longer corporal, God is no longer commanding, that God is not outside of us, but that God is a placeholder for our highest ideals, which is why when we say, God damn it, that's the very, very, very most is because it's related to God, that God is a placeholder for our highest ideals. That God is love. That's this idea, that God is a placeholder for our highest ideals.
Would you go over your 3 R's again, please?
That in the Talmud, again, this is my addition to
Understood.
To Fromm, that God becomes a reluctant requirer of rules.
Thank you.
Reluctant, recalcitrant, that God doesn't show God's self directly, but that God has all of these rules that God wants people to do. Thank you for asking, Meg.
Rabbi, can you explain a little bit more the PHI thing on God?
Yeah, so that's our placeholder. A placeholder for our highest ideals.
Okay.
That we use the word God not to refer to something outside of us, but you know how when we talk about the qualities of a spiritual religious life, we talk about that there's a hierarchy of values, that we use the word God as a placeholder, as something to talk about our highest ideals.
Okay.
Not that God is anything. I'm just going to repeat myself again.
Would you consider Jesus the initial conception of Jesus evolving into that other placeholder for our highest ideals as well?
Sure. This is how I use the word God. That God is a placeholder for my highest ideals. And I sometimes say that it's like the character of Ebenezer Scrooge, Charles Dickens' Christmas Carol, that there's this idea of what it might be to be Scrooge-like, what it might be to be like Ebenezer Scrooge. And whether or not Ebenezer Scrooge ever existed, we still know what it means. And that God is an idea, and whether or not a God like that actually exists, we know what it is we mean by it.
The reverse also be true?
And the reverse could also be true.
What's the reverse?
Right, and probably the contrapositive, but I get a little bit lost.
Okay.
I wanted to talk about God today also because I'm going to transition us a little bit. We have a lot of groups at Religion Outside the Box. There's this group that meets right now, and I'm glad that you guys are all here. But we also have a Shekinah group that often talks about, and if you want to talk more about God with a group of people, we have a group to do that in. And the thing that this Shekinah group, Shekinah being a Hebrew word for a divine feminine energy, that group had been talking about God, but then in the last few weeks they were talking about wisdom And I thought, well, if my group usually on the Saturday morning where we are, usually we're talking about wisdom and the Shekinah group is talking about wisdom, maybe it's time for me to do a little bit of talking about this God word. So that's how this came to be. There are other groups that Religion Outside the Box runs besides this one and besides the Shekinah group, and those are all going up in the chat. Yeah, those are all going up in the chat right now. If you would like to hang out with some people some more, please do. We also have a contact list so you can get in touch with each other between services. There's a... Are those all posted up in the chat there, Maria?
I'm getting there.
They're getting posted there. So we encourage you to hang out some more.
Wednesday.
Oh, there it is.
There's all of the things in the chat. If you are on Facebook, please send me an email and tell me if you want to join any one of the auxiliary groups. On the Religion Outside the Box Clubhouse, you can see, if you go to rotb.org and follow links to the Clubhouse, you can see all of our different groups and how to join them. So please do that. Okay. I want us to first take a look at these names that are on the screen here. Safdin Asim Ayad Abu Dada. You can read these names. I'm going to make them a little bit bigger so that you can read them. These are the names of the health workers, the people who were just killed in Gaza for the crime of trying to deliver food to other people. And I wanted us to take a moment in this Religion Outside the Box world to hold these people in our thoughts and our hearts. And we'll add their names along with the people who we know individually. So Maria, would you add us in some names of people we want to say prayers for today?
Yes. These are the people to whom we are sending light and love. Ken and Joe, Anne, Sheridan H., Maria, Dave Morgeson and Edie McClurg, Greg, Donnell in spirit, Brian C. and family, Helen B. in spirit and family, Andrew April Brendan, Dante, Moishu Yasso Ben Leah, Linda Phil Cleo, Jessa Witherby, Chris Hall in spirit, his wife Brenda and siblings Val and Bob, Steve Ulrich, Mruchek and Marta, Carolyn Hyatt, Arena Bot Sarah, Azera Ben Isaac, Tiona Bot Rena, Muriel, Mary Ellen and all battling addictions, Mary Wolf, Lynn D, Gloria, and Judy Bravin. If there is another person in our community to whom we can offer light and love, please put their name in the chat and I will add them to the list in the clubhouse. And for the people who aren't named, but who are in our thoughts, we send them light and love as well.
Thank you, Maria. And let's take a minute at a time right now to add prayers for all of these people. Well, thank you all for taking that minute. I have one announcement that I normally make, and today's a normal day. Hey, folks, it's okay not to be okay. I'm having a hard time right this minute. And you know what? That's okay.
Hmm.
It's what Jeff said. The difference between a good day and a bad day is about 2 days. The difference between feeling okay and not feeling okay sometimes can be very, very quick. There's a problem, and I'm facing it right now, which is when you're not feeling okay, sometimes it's hard to even remember what it feels like to feel okay.
Mm.
True.
Yeah.
You ever have a flu and you can't even remember what it felt like to not have the flu?
Yeah.
We have emotional the same thing. Sometimes it's hard to just remember that this too will pass, but it will. This too will pass. It's okay not to be okay.
Amen.
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 Mm-hmm.
And Rabbi Brian?
Yes.
I think you have done very well today. It was very interesting to hear this. Even if you started with what God is not, but sometimes it's good to make a list of what we're not talking about, just to be sure that what we really are aiming at is something else.
Thank you, Christina.
So this is very, very interesting. As a starter, maybe we could go on talking about this.
And I encourage everyone to please do. I do find that the larger the group, sometimes it's harder to talk about this very, very tender topic.
I agree.
I have a great, if you want more. Oh, what's inside that box?
Ooh.
There's a whole section within this book. There's a whole section about God in the very beginning. I'll bring it up on the screen. We're in section 7, the God section. And it says, I welcome you to join me in exploring around the edges of what we might mean by the word God. And that the word God is not defined, that science leads to truth, art leads to beauty, and religion leads to God. Science seeks truth, something impossible to define. Beauty, one of the goals of art, is also unspecifiably, incalculable, immeasurable, unquantifiable. Why should God, religion's infinite and purported destination, require a clear definition? We don't.
I like that.
This is a really good book, folks.
So the author?
On page 333, there's this. It says NFDGWF. Notes for discussing God with friends. And some of it is that this is a really hard topic. It's a very hard topic to get around. And it's going to get clunky, as we proved today. Thank you for joining me. I'm going to ask if give me on an index card. On an index card written in a Sharpie, so you don't have that much room. What's the takeaway? What are you taking with you today? What's the moral of the story? You were here, I was here. What did we learn?
Talking about God is a very difficult subject.
Talking about God is a very triggered subject. Amen. What else did we get today?
It's also really, really interesting.
It's also really, really interesting. Thank you, Michael. I love when you share.
And that faith is evolving.
That faith is evolving. Yeah.
It's okay not to be perfect.
It's okay not to be perfect. Folks, if you had one thing to practice this week, and let's talk about it next week, let's talk about not being perfect.
Easy subject.
Say that again, Ray.
That's an easy subject for most of us.
To not be perfect?
You know, it's sort of like a drip. You know, what's a drip? It's an idea under pressure. or something like that.
It's easy for us not to be perfect. It's hard for us to be accepting of our imperfection.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Go forth and be imperfect more.
Imperfect? I love it. I love it. That fits in. So folks who are on the screen right now, wave goodbye to our friends on Facebook. Thank you all for joining.